Welcome to this edition of Matters. Today's topic is going to be one that's very near and dear to our hearts, and it's called the Four Cornerstones. And as we unroll the Four Cornerstones, I'm going to share with you first why this is such an important topic to me. When Terry and I first started working together in business, she always said that she came into PSC, and PSC was a guy's company. It was like a clubhouse.
Yes, it was.
That's okay. They're going to get the message from what I say. You don't need to add to it right now. Anyway, she said it was just like a clubhouse and very
not a clubhouse,
relaxed.
a locker room.
A locker room. That paints a different story, doesn't it? Although I can assure you that everybody that worked there was fully dressed.
That wasn't necessary. Move on.
Anyway, I can remember when Terry first started working at PSC, on a daily basis. She would come in every morning, and those of you that know Terry personally know that you can pretty much read on her face what she's thinking and feeling, and she'd walk in a bluster every morning because PSC didn't look the way it needed to look to be able to welcome its teammates or any guests. And I saw our company really try to do things differently, to tidy up, to perhaps influence or change our dialogue around the company, and they tried to hit a target that they couldn't see. They didn't understand sanitation. They didn't understand dialogue from Terry's perspective. And I saw them try harder and harder, and yet every morning it seemed that we as a group collectively had missed the mark. And I can remember saying to Terry that we needed help, that we needed the ability to see the color red the way that she does. And what we mean by that is just imagine trying to describe the color red to someone who can't see or who doesn't have any idea what it is. It would be a difficult task. That's kind of what we were finding. It was a difficult task to hit a target that we didn't have. And so through the process, we asked Terry to show us, give us an example. In some cases even, give us a diagram of resting position for a particular room that we have in our building that tends to be multitask. It's a multi-purpose room. And how it's left from one event to the next was critical. And so we wound up developing that over time. And now, after all these years, certainly the company has a real good sense of Terry's eye for order and sanitation. And out of that came this SPAS check, which really the four cornerstones of every business, any business, regardless of what their service or product is, can really fit into these four cornerstones that must be in place.
Well, and I love these because even though it's not verbally stated every time we walk into a business, we are judging if we feel good in the business. So if we walk into a bank or into a hotel or a restaurant, a movie theater, even walking onto an airline, you're judging these four things. The mind only can say, this feels good, or this brings pain. This feels good, I want to do it again, or I don't want to do it again. So the four cornerstones are very simply the four rules of what a business has to have in place for a customer to want to return. You can't be good in one of them and think that's enough to retain a customer. You have to be good in all of them. And we're going to have a little fun with this because we've got some examples as we go along of what not to do, what not to say, what will work, what won't work, and let's just enjoy it. The four cornerstones are service, product, atmosphere, sanitation. Now, let's start with service. Let's use the restaurant industry because we've all dined out. When we look at the image of the personnel, when they walk up to the table, we're judging everything about them. We're judging the way they look, the way they smell. We're judging if they're clean and tidy or is their uniform, what
Just
they're wearing
the
a
record,
mess.
Somebody comes up to my table and they smell, I'm going to a different restaurant. I don't know how to tell you that any different.
You know what? That's fair. What I mean is, do they have too much cologne on that overpowers you? Just like the cologne that you always smell and just it turns you off right away. Mm-hmm. When you look at image, you're looking at their... I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it together again.
We're back, a little bit more tired because of the laughter. So we'll get our energy back up in the right way, and Terry wants to talk more about jewelry.
I do, but I first want to say, so many people think service is just how they're served. They don't realize it's a variety of topics that fall under service.
Well, Terry, I'm glad you said that, because especially in our business, when you say the four cornerstones, the service, product, atmosphere, and sanitation, people think service. Oh, that's cutting hair. That's changing the texture of hair, the dimension of hair. Mm-hmm. And service quality is that, but it's so much more than that.
Sure.
And that's really what we explore during this topic.
Okay, so let's go back to jewelry. We know that piercing is a sensitive topic, and it's sensitive for the owner to lead, also for the staff to understand rules and procedures about it. I guess the rule of thumb on piercing is it in the mainstream? Is it tastefully done? I mean, if it's really out there, I think you're going to scare some customers away. And face piercings isn't a norm for people, and it's not really comfortable to talk about or sometimes even look at. So let's just leave it at that and know that you're being judged based on your decision making there. When you go into dialogue is a huge part of service, because it's not just what you do, it's how you say what you do. Do you want to talk about dialogue?
Well, dialogue is your presence in front of the guest. It presents you as a service provider. It presents the business as how you want it to sound. We think that dialogue is everything. If you're not careful with your dialogue, your business becomes very, very casual. And if you listen right now to the common greetings amongst people, just the greeting for one thing, in my opinion, dude is not a greeting. Or hey, it's just not a greeting. But if we leave it to chance, those things will happen. So dialogue positions us to win in the service experience.
Well, and a great example of that is if you're at Nordstrom and you make a purchase, they walk your purchase around the front counter, they hand it to you, and they say, Mrs. Cowan, enjoy your purchases. You made great decisions today, or enjoy your purchase. What do they do at Kmart?
I have no idea.
They don't do anything. They just say, have a nice day. The routine sentiment is just get out. So what do we like to do business with? Is our dialogue polished? Does it really show how interested and committed we are to our customers? Every single bit of the dialogue should be planned for and scripted. Not to be robotic, but especially as we have youth come into our business. God bless them, but that's not a strength of them, knowing how to talk to an adult. For the most part, they only communicate with their peers. And now they're asked to be carrying themselves as a professional. They need to be taught that. They need to be taught phone voice. They need to be taught how to carry themselves, what's acceptable dialogue, what isn't, when do they say too much, when are they saying too little. Let's face it, talking to an adult when you're at that age can be intimidating. So they need some guidelines on how to do it well.
And what I'm thinking as I hear you is the last time that I had the opportunity to be in front of Robert Cromie's group, and dialogue came up and scripting came up. And you mentioned it earlier. Sometimes people think they're either going to become clones or robots, or it won't sound natural, or those are that person's words. I don't know how it would ever sound okay. And Robert did something that I thought was brilliant. He said, wait a second, all of us share a love for the movie Jerry Maguire. Let's go around the room and tell us your favorite lines from that movie. And one person said, you had me at hello. And another person said, show me the money.
Yes.
And it went on for a couple of minutes. And then Robert said, stop for a minute. Do you think that Tom Cruise was just winging it? Or do you think he was going according to a script? And of course, everybody said according to a script. But did we believe them in that movie? Did we believe them in character? And that's really what business is are we believable in character? And certainly this issue of dialogue is awkward in the beginning. But we say all the time we have to be willing to be awkward with our words in the same way that we were once awkward with our hands.
And when businesses get too comfortable, the dialogue is sometimes the first thing that is obviously weak. When you walk in and you can see the casual conversation at the front desk, the customers notice that. And they also notice when they're being serviced beautifully.
Well, Terry, there's also very many people that if they're not comfortable, if they don't know specifically what to say, they won't even engage.
True.
They'll be quiet. They'll be more introverted. And the real value in our business of teaching people scripted dialogue is that people will be more likely to meet and treat our guest in the way that we would want them to.
Well, this kind of falls under the next topic, but scripted dialogue makes you look more like an expert in front of your customer.
Absolutely.
And that's what the customer wants. They want to know they're in good hands. So how do you do that? I don't understand at times how the conversation can get too casual. Or we can say, oh, that's Mary. She doesn't care what we say. She'll be a lifetime resident here at our salon. That's taking the customer for granted. So the whole topic of dialogue can be a whole CD on itself. And I'm sure that we've done it and talked about it to where you're sick of hearing us talk about it in every CD that we do. But it's critical. We are our conversation. So how we present ourselves in our salon, either it's magical or it lacks luster.
Well, and I was just thinking, what would happen if you went to see your favorite performer and they changed the words to your favorite song every time they sang it? I mean, we get attached to those words. We get attached to the way people do things. It's no different in any business that we frequent. We get attached. We get trained how to be a guest in their business, and we like certain things. That's why we chose that business.
Well, and I also think in the beauty industry, the volume that we use. I've gone into salons, and it's a little bit too loud in there. How we're talking back and forth. Can someone get me some towels? That's just not good. And we have to make sure that we have dialogue that is pleasant to everyone. That kind of falls under atmosphere too, but we do have loud people in the salon sometimes. And we have to be careful with that. Also, are we using the proper grammar? Customers notice that. And also, are we using manners in the salon? Are we saying thank you and please? I mean, things that we learned in kindergarten. But sometimes that's not present in the business. And they really want to see how we treat each other as well. The chairside manner, what are your guest handling skills? Are we very comfortable with them? Do we push their head if we need to? I mean, Sam Mercado, when he wants, I've always noticed this about Sam, when he's cutting your hair and he needs you to look to the left or look to the right, he's very, very gentle with you. I've also had hairdressers that just push your head down, and I need to cut the back of your neck, and they're not gentle. So chairside manner is, how are you handling your guests? Right? Okay. Are we, and do we have in place things that the customer can count on that are going to take place every single time we're in the salon? Or do we cut corners? We did an article just recently, and we have hairdressers, we're specifically talking to them right now, that if they're running behind, they know the corners in which to cut. They'll lessen their conversation during the image profile or the consultation. They'll cut back on the shampoo, which of course is the customer's favorite part. They won't talk about their take-home recommendation. They won't change up the service that they're providing the customer. So the customer knows when you cut those corners, because their last visit you might have done everything and given them a little extra on everything, and this time you're cutting corners. What can I expect from my service every visit?
Well, and I think that that's certainly part of Cornerstones, and it certainly defines service. What are the steps of the service? What can you absolutely count on? We say that build a wall around what the guest is entitled to expect as a guest in your business. And certainly that has to do with the way it sounds, the way it feels, the steps that are taken and not skipped. I mean,
everyone knows what it feels like to be rushed.
Absolutely. And there are times when a guest feels you're rushing even when you're not.
Right.
And those are the things that great businesses have a way. I'll never forget one time being in Nordstrom as what we thought their closing hour approached. And I can remember asking one of the service providers, what time does Nordstrom close this evening? And they said 10 p.m. or whenever our guests are finished shopping.
Without hesitation, he said
yeah,
that.
Didn't think about it, didn't make it up, didn't wing it, but someone taught that person to say that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make that up. That's not the way they talk at home.
And as soon as you heard that, you relaxed, enjoyed the rest of the shopping experience, left, and talked about it, and you're still talking about it.
Absolutely.
That makes you a lifelong resident.
And so how can we build those things in? Those things don't happen by chance. You are not going to just automatically hire people who think that way.
Right.
So we have to help people to think that way, but it has to do with what our values are as a company. What are our service values? And those equal service in the Cornerstones. We have to train it. We have to believe it. We have to love it. We have to love it in the busiest times during the day. And we also have to love it and be dedicated to it in the slowest times. I can remember being in a restaurant that wasn't busy and having poor service. And Terry, I can remember you telling me from your restaurant experience, those are the toughest times to serve in a restaurant. It's not the busy times, it's the slow times.
Well, and that's why we've been on a big campaign, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but really examining the service hours of the business. Because when there is high energy and a lot of fun, and the atmosphere is creating that hype in the salon, I know we get better service during those times. And it was very true in the restaurant industry. Okay, professional pass-off. Why don't you talk about that?
Professional pass-off creates two things. First of all, it would be our service ethic, if we had a salon, to have people have multiple relationships, to know as many of the service providers and the staff as possible. So whenever there is an opportunity to introduce one to another, that would be done. A professional pass-off is a time in the business when a guest is going from my immediate concern to another person's, whether it be a cleansing technician, a nail technician, an esthetician, whether it be an assistant or an associate that's working with me, someone who perhaps is doing something from rinsing color to preparing the guest to be in my chair, whatever it may be. Instead of just saying, go on back and get shampooed, I'm going to, after the image profile, I'm going to escort this guest back to the lather lounge or the wash house, and I'm going to introduce that person to the cleansing technician. This is my pass-off. This is my guest, and I want you to meet my teammate who is a cleansing technician. It's up to us as service providers and professionals to bring dignity to every position within our business, within our staff.
That's a great point.
If they see us taking people for granted, if they see us creating these levels, like I'm really cool because I'm a stylist and this is just my helper, if they see us creating a differentiation in the roles that people play in this salon in a negative fashion, our guest perception of the business is less. So when we introduce, first of all, when you introduce someone to another person, both people are uplifted. Not just the cleansing technician, but the guest is uplifted. Because it's never just, Mary, this is Terry, Terry, this is Bud. It's always, this is my guest. I've just spent time with Bud. And in the process of determining what would be best for him, I've got this and this and this that I'd like you to do. Bud, this is Terry. Terry will be working with you today. And you'll enjoy your time with her. She'll go through the steps that we've talked about. She'll prepare your hair, and I can't wait to see you back in the chair. When that takes place, you're not leaving the chance that Terry's going to have a great day as a cleansing technician. You're helping to create that great day.
This falls under team respect, and every example Steve gave you highlights that. Another thing that can happen is a guest may say, do you know where the powder room is? Or where the bathroom is? And then instead of just saying, go on back, first door on the left, you say, allow me to direct you. I'll take you back. And that's another way to say you're in good hands. We're going to make sure you're served here. Punctuality, running on time is one of the greatest compliments we can do, especially at the pace of people's lives now. So if we're not running on time, or we even neglect to apologize when we're not, it sounds like our time is more valuable than the customer's, and that's never a great indicator. We're looking for taste level. They're looking at your taste level. There's a great movie, one that I really enjoy watching over and over again. It's You've Got Mail. And there's one scene in there where someone's talking about the role that Meg Ryan plays, which I believe is Kathleen Kelly. And they say, oh, you know Kathleen Kelly. She's got marvelous taste. In fact, she's known for it. What a wonderful thing to be known for. And wouldn't it be great if our salon was known for having exquisite taste or impeccable taste? The salon owner and staff being known for that, especially in the beauty industry. What is your taste level? And taste level is going to fall under sanitation and atmosphere as well. But I think sometimes we miss the ball on this, where we get too comfortable and think the hair is the only thing we have to have taste about, versus having taste with how we serve, how we look, how we act. I think those are pretty much the things that I'm thinking about when it comes to service. But as you can see, this makes a great staff meeting. This is something that we should be preaching and judging ourselves on ongoing. Some of you are still having problems with your staff's attire. Make it a core value and put the rules in place that says, look, this is the decision making and this is why and this is how I want to look. And Steve was on the phone this morning with an owner, and you said the customer will always pay for your passion. Mm-hmm. Always. And what are you passionate about? Hopefully you're passionate about the service category of your business. Hopefully you're passionate about how your staff looks, that's not something you negotiate on. Hopefully you're passionate on your staff's punctuality and their attendance record and their dependability and commitment to the salon. All these things fall under service.
Salon owners always talk to us about points of difference, differentiating their salon from another. We're in a people business. The place to start with differentiation is with your people. The way that that's experienced is through your service. And they talk about having a servant's heart. And that's really part of service. Service is done by people who have a servant's heart, who are able to look at a guest truly as a guest. That's not a head of hair that needs to be cut or have color or texture change. That's not a person that got a gift card for a facial, just somebody on my book. We're not an industry of making the donuts. We're an industry of passionate people who love and care for their craft, who also love and care for their guest with a servant's heart. And I think that the key point of difference in one salon to another is always going to be its people.
My last thought on this is we're in a time when people are really living beyond their means. And we're not talking about money right now. We're talking about the amount of things that they've got going on in their life. Gosh, everyone is so busy. And how do you slow that down? And how do you take time for you? And how do you take time and relax? Certainly the computer industry isn't going to say, we're going to slow your world down and make you feel more comfortable. That would never be their byline. But in the beauty industry, we could be known for that. An oasis, an escape for the individual. But how we serve has to complement exactly what the customer needs. The customer's coming in to receive a luxurious manicure and pedicure or a great facial, but the salon's pace and how wired they are doesn't lend itself for me to enjoy it. I'm not going to return. I need it to be that in all things to me.
Well, a couple of quick examples, only because I don't want the service part of Cornerstones to end because I think it is so critically important.
We could go on and on.
One example that comes to my mind, about a week ago, I was having dinner with my daughter, who's in college, and one of her friends. And it was a chain restaurant with a very good reputation. And as we were seated, service provider came to the table. And within a very short amount of time, I realized that we were on the short end of the stick here. Everybody around us was having more fun. Everybody around us had a service provider that differentiated themselves. And not that ever a service provider in a restaurant is part of the meal, because I think that's when it takes it over the top. But in their dialogue with you, in their interaction with you, they can either add to it, they can make it memorable or not. And we had someone who was on the not side. From every question that was asked about the menu, I can remember seeing something new on the menu. I asked about it, and she said, they're okay. So I didn't order it. We were presented the bill for the services before we were offered coffee or dessert. I could tell that we were not a guest in that restaurant. We were an inconvenience.
Right.
We were somebody else she had to serve before she went home that night.
Mm-hmm. Maybe her last table.
And so it was disappointing. The overall thing, I loved the time with my daughter and her friend, but the restaurant experience is memorable in a negative way.
You know what's so funny is even new people can screw this up. I was in a restaurant with two of our customers and having dinner in an Outback. And Outback has a great reputation. And I'll never forget, and I think I might have said this on another CD, but I'll never forget saying to the young lady, oh, you've added French onion soup. Tell me about it. Is it great? She goes, oh, I don't eat that here because I don't eat anything that smells like stinky feet. Now, first of all, where and how does that person think that would be acceptable to say? But you've got people that say things because they don't realize when they cross the line of professional versus unprofessional, casual versus formal service. They get that all messed up in their head. Mm-hmm. And I was in such shock that she said it, I didn't correct it. But how many times are we in our businesses when we listen, really listen to the exchanges that are taking place between customer and our staff and think, ooh, I didn't like that. That didn't feel good. That should never be said. But we do nothing about it. Therefore, service really isn't a core value for us. And how do we get known? Not only to have impeccable taste with our taste level of beauty, but get known for impeccable taste in our taste level of service.
Well, again, another company that certainly called to mind very quickly. We talked about them on our Marketing Matters CD, but I think of Starbucks. Starbucks business is coffee, varieties of coffee and lattes and cappuccinos and things of that sort. But a lot of what's memorable about Starbucks is its collection of people that work in that business. You can count on an interesting sort of person behind the counter at any Starbucks that you walk into. You can count on just an eclectic mix of people that really care to see you. And to me, that's intriguing. It's intriguing how a business does that. Are they creative people? Yes. They're hiring mostly artistic, creative people who are trying to make it in the creative world, who haven't yet done that, and they need to work there for benefits. Majority of people work at Starbucks not for pay, but for benefits. And it's interesting the way that comes through. Your service level, or lack of it, will always come through. Your ability to charge a premium price for what you do will be based on your ability to create a positive service experience.
Absolutely.
The next cornerstone is product. When we talk about cornerstones in a live event, many times, as soon as we say the word product, people think about take-home products. They think about the front area of their salon and the various brands of product that they offer for take-home. And while certainly that's a part of product, we want you to think on a grander scale. Everything that you do, that you charge revenue for in your business
is your product.
Is your product.
Yes.
Every single thing that you do is your product. And so we're going to talk about it in a broader sense. Certainly we'll talk about take-home as well. But I think one of the most important things about product is, from a service standpoint, from a technical service standpoint, the haircuts, the color, the facials, the body treatments, is a salon's and a business's commitment to being current. How much are we reinvesting in ourselves as service providers? How much are we reinvesting in our salon or our spa in order to absolutely maintain current status? Current from a taste standpoint, current from an expertise standpoint. What percentage of our revenue are we reinvesting in our people and ourselves in order to take our business to the next level?
Well, and I think that's great because along with being current, they want experts servicing them. Have you ever been to a Neiman Marcus or whatever, and you've gone up to the cosmetic counter and said, "Hi, may I purchase some Chanel?" And they say, "Oh, I'm not the Chanel girl. She's at lunch, but I'm over here from Clinique. I'll help you as best I can." Right then, you're disappointed because you don't have an expert in front of you. So you start to say, great, this is going to be less than what I expected today. Same thing can apply if people sometimes say, I'm not great at updos, or I don't wax, or I know nothing about that product line. I only know about this product line over here. If you work there, you're the expert. I don't care if you work at Target, you need to know about diapers. If you're at Target, you need to know about lawnmowers. If it's carried in the business, you have to be the expert on it because you are employed there. I never should be more of an expert as a customer than you are as a personnel.
Terry, and another way to look at that is if we're not expert, then we've turned our product into a commodity.
Well, that's absolutely true.
And people buy commodities for the lowest price they can. Mm-hmm. The example of diapers. Diapers are a commodity. We're going to buy those at the place where we get the absolute best price because we don't really expect a service provider at any of those businesses to be expert in diapers. Why is it different in the salon? It's different in the salon because we do expect everyone that we encounter, whether it be the front desk staff, the concierge, the reservationists, the cleansing technicians, the nail technicians, the estheticians, everyone in their respective craft or contribution to the business needs to be expert not only in what we do, but the way that we do it here in our salon.
Absolutely. We've seen people walk up to the front. Customers say, tell me about this product. I didn't go to that meeting when they did that, so I know nothing about that one. How could you even think that would be acceptable to say? And how could an owner allow it to be optional for you to be an expert on that? That's the owner's job to say, you will know this. I don't care if you do testing, scripting, video role playing, whatever you need to do to make sure your staff can talk to your customer in the right way, you do it.
Well, I remember, too, it was just about a month ago now, I went into a Starbucks. Not to bring them up again, but this was too good an example to pass up.
Well, how often are you there, honey?
Not often enough. I was in a Starbucks in Bloomington, Illinois, and it was just before their morning rush. I had taken my computer. I was going to have a cup of coffee and just sit in Starbucks and watch the morning come alive in this business. And as I was sitting there, all of a sudden I noticed a couple of people in suits that weren't anxious to buy coffee. And I figured, okay, I'm going to watch this happen. I'd already identified kind of the pecking order of the business. I knew who the manager on duty was. And then there were the baristas and the people who were making the coffee. And, it was interesting. So as this all unfolds, all of a sudden the manager finds time to get over to the two people in suits. And I realized somehow they must be from Starbucks corporate. They're there on their job, not just for coffee. Well, after a little bit, after doing some inspection on the coffee counter, the pastry counter, all of a sudden now they sit down at a table right next to me. Shortly after that, a young gentleman comes over with a tray of what probably looked like shot glass sized coffee cups.
Dixie cups, too.
Dixie
right?
cups,
Yeah.
Full of coffee. And he presents this tray, gives each one of the people around the table, at this point I think there were 4 or 5 people from Starbucks there, starts to explain this particular coffee. Come to find out that he is in training to become the coffee master at that location. He's been in that position for less than a month, and his job was to present that coffee with all of its benefits and to know the story behind it. He explained about the Colombian coffee and how Starbucks is a partner in Colombia trying to show the culture and the people there that they have a crop that could have more value to them, certainly be more legal and more enriching to the people of Colombia than cocaine. And so this isn't just a coffee. This is a coffee that also ties to a cause.
Did you just love
that
this
can
or
make
what?
a difference. Well, I was loving it because I was also loving
You probably
his
pulled up
choice
your chair
of
and were
dialogue.
sitting there, too.
Yeah, I didn't get a Dixie cup full of the coffee. I would have if I could have. But it was just a delightful experience. And so he went on about this for less than 5 minutes, but his dialogue was perfect. His information was right there. When he was done, everybody at that table had a question for him relative to the coffee. It wasn't just throw-in stuff. It was relative to the coffee, and he answered. And finally, at the end of it, somebody said, and how long have you been in training here to be a coffee master? And he once again said less than a month.
I thought it was a week, honey.
They said, well, a week's less than a month.
Okay.
It really was a week, but I couldn't remember it precisely. And I didn't want to embellish the story. But anyway, I mean, it was just a delightful thing. And as I sat there, I thought, what if we walked into a salon, regardless of what brand was on the shelf, and went up to the front desk staff and said, could you present this product to me? Could you present this super skinny serum to me? Would that happen? What would happen? How much information? How accurate would it be?
Or would we run away?
Yeah, would we run away? I mean, Starbucks is known for its customization. Everyone that goes in there orders something in slightly a different way. How could you ever really become a coffee master? But they do. What about our business? How about salons? And how do we become masters in our product? And let's say we can become masters in the take-home side of the business because they are absolute technical things that have bottles and have ingredient listings and have specific uses. But what about the services? How are our people describing the product, the services, the haircuts, the facials, the body treatments, the packages that we offer that sell series of treatments in our salon, the special days of beauty that we have?
Or the house specialties. What are our house specialties? Starbucks
Sure.
certainly has it. This is what we're featuring today. Do salons, what are you known for? The customer wants you to be known for, not just a cutting station, but they want you to be known for a house specialty. What is that there? And it could be your shampoo. It could be the way you present color in your salon. It could be the experience of walking into the spa and how the spa is definitely an oasis. But you better be known for something, because then you're generic if you're not.
Another example of what someone's known for. It's only 2-3 times a year I get the opportunity to walk into an Apple store. But I know what I'm walking into. I know that I'm walking into an adult electronic playground. I know that there'll be enough eye candy around and the opportunity to play and sample that, to sample the computers, to sample the iPods, to sample the various add-ons to iPods. And I know there will be a desk there with a sign behind it that says Geniuses. So that if I have a question specific to Apple, specific to my iPod, specific to something, I know that I'm going to be able to get an answer while I'm there. So there's an expectation when your hand hits the door of an Apple store.
That you're in good hands.
You know you're in good hands. You know who the service providers are because they are always identified.
Well, and Apple provides you with options. They've got categories for you to be able to direct yourself, but know that an expert's there also. They've got product selection. Their presentation is wonderful. Just by the things that you saw there, you wanted to spend a lot of money because the way that they captivated you as their audience.
It's a company that gets it. And it's obvious that they get it. It's obvious that they want to. See, I think that when we do our product well, you've got to let the guest in. In other words, they've got to play. They've got to want to be part of it. And that's sometimes what we're missing in the salon industry is that it's not something that they've just got to get in there and play. It's seen more on the maintenance side.
This would be a great field trip for our salons. Let's just go through the list really quick and tell me how Apple hit the mark on all of this. Expert status. They have the Geniuses right on site, right?
And they always have, in addition to the Geniuses, they have enough staff that's working in the various area. When you walk in, to the left and the right, on one side will be their tower, their computers, their desktop computers, their desktop solutions. What's Apple known for? They're known for their graphics. They're known for their ability to take people's home video and turn it into movies. And they're certainly known for music and things like that. But on their desktops, they're mostly known for graphics and photos and movies. It's obvious. You look to the left when you walk into an Apple store, and you're going to see that on multiple computers. You'll see 1 to 2 people working in that area, and you'll see all kinds of people off the street just playing with it, playing with a program they wouldn't normally get to play with.
So you're ahead of me a little bit. So there's options at Apple.
There's options.
What about categories?
Absolutely. The categories that are obvious to me is desktop solutions on one side, notebooks or portable computers on another side, another area that's iPods and iPod accessories, another area that's dedicated toward children, another area that's dedicated to the Geniuses, and then a whole upstairs area that's dedicated toward education.
What about product selection and product availability?
I've never not had something be available there.
And you count on that?
Yeah.
What about specialties? What are their specialties?
I wonder what they would call their specialties. I mean, to me, it's technology with service.
Team talent, is that obvious there too?
Absolutely.
And cutting edge and commitment to current.
Absolutely.
They hit every mark on it.
They make current happen in advance. So how can we be about making current happen in advance in the salon industry? Mm-hmm. Who's doing that? What are they doing? How have we reinvented the product that we have, which is beauty? A friend of ours says that we'll be paid commensurate to our knowledge and our celebration of beauty. Subsequently, we'll be underpaid based on our lack of knowledge. So making current happen in advance is a critical point. How do we take some of those things that we talked about, whether it be categories? I think that sometimes in the salon industry, in an effort to have selection or categories, we make our menus difficult. See, people don't get in. The guest doesn't get in when it's difficult. The guest gets in when it's safe. The Apple example is, it's safe. Even if I get in and it's over my head, I've got a genius here. I've got somebody here that knows the product who's going to help me. But I've got to want to get in. It's got to be easy enough. It's got to draw me in. And sometimes our menus don't draw people in. Sometimes our definitions of services, the names of the services we have, They don't create common knowledge, as Robert talks about. And so how can you as a salon owner, how can we as an industry go back at and look at our business? I would look at every single thing that we do and say, how can we create categories for what we do? Not just our product categories, but our service product
I think that's a
categories
great
as well.
point, because most salons still, very high percentage is haircut only.
Yeah, higher than what we'd like to see, absolutely. We're reviewing a salon right now that their haircuts are boss. Their haircuts are so much the boss that it's hard for their dollar per guest to be higher than their haircut price. So, again, look at the menu and see how we can do that. Look at our business. Do we train by categories? Have we created experts within categories? Have we got go-to people within a category? Does the front desk staff, the reservationists, the concierge, whatever it is we call our front desk staff, can they speak it? Do they have a salon speak about them? Tom Peters says all the time that a successful business has a feel to it. It has a sound. You know it when you walk in. And so one of the things that we used to do early on in consulting with salons, I would ask them when they got there in the morning to walk back out the door and do the best they could at saying, I'm no longer the owner here, walk back in the door and look as much as they possibly can through a guest's eyes. The guest doesn't know, oh, I tried to get that corner taken care of. I tried to get that product in. I tried to get them to take those color bowls back to this area. I tried to get them not to be having personal phone calls at the front desk. I tried to keep the stylists out from the back desk. Don't they know how hard it is to be an owner? A guest doesn't know that. A guest knows what it feels like to walk in your business. And every guest is going to do a 360 scan as soon as they walk in the business.
This kind of falls under atmosphere, our next cornerstone. So let's talk about the things that they should be looking for, because you might have overwhelmed them into saying, what am I supposed to be looking for when I walk in my salon? Number one thing is, what is the lighting? How does the lighting look? Do you have light bulbs that are out? Do you have lighting that's acceptable for the staff to see their work, or is it questionable? Night lighting, I think that's a big factor. What does our place look like when it's not in operation? Because when someone drives by, even a closed business that is successful still appears. You can picture what it probably looks like when it is busy. Mm-hmm. What is the temperature of the salon? Is it comfortable for the customer? Not comfortable for the staff. Is it comfortable for the customer? Also, what is the music selection? Once again, does it say, slow down the world, take me away, this is an oasis, this is the beauty industry? Or does it say, jam, 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 hurt my ears, I'm not comfortable here, I can't wait to get out, this is louder than my car, I just needed some quiet? What are the textures of the walls? Is it trendy? Is it dated? Dialogue is part of our atmosphere, because people, the service and the staff make up a big part of the atmosphere. What is the resting position? Resting position is when a station or a treatment room isn't being used, there's a way in which we want it to look so it's prepared for the next guest and it's pleasant for the eyes. What is the scent of our business? What does it smell like?
Terry, you're going pretty fast. I want to talk a little bit about resting position.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I thought about was, I think that the spa side of the business
does better at this.
They get it from a resting position standpoint in a treatment room.
That's because they have to put new sheets on.
Exactly, but I love that about it. Even if you look at a spa treatment room, it's the only time you'll look at that I'll look at it is in between treatments. But it always looks like the guest wants to get in. That's such a cool part of the business. We haven't duplicated that yet on the hair side, I don't think. I don't think that we really successfully prepare for and create a resting position in between guests. And I know there's some of you saying, hey, you try and do one guest after another in 30-minute increments or 45-minute increments. You're just happy to be there at all. It's so hard. Well, we talk all the time about pace. What if the pace was different so that we could prepare a station properly so that it did welcome every guest in the same way? If we said earlier, we want to build a wall around what the guest is entitled to expect here in our salon. That doesn't just mean if you're the first guest of the day. That means every guest all day long. And so resting position, I think, is important. It's critically important. It's the packaging, if you will, for the service that's about to happen. it does create an atmosphere in the business.
Sure.
There's a couple of salons that we do business with that every brush and every comb is sanitized and wrapped, and they only use it on one guest.
And they present.
And they present that in a tray at their station when they begin working with a guest. There's something to be said for that. Mm-hmm. Not saying that it's the only way or the end-all, be-all, but every time I hear them talk about it, it's interesting to me. It's intriguing.
Have you ever been to a restaurant and you're the only table that doesn't have a candle on it? Or you're the only table and
Has a candle, but it's not lit?
the candle's not lit? And you think, light my candle. Now, it sounds silly. It's a little candle in this whole big restaurant, but that adds to the atmosphere and you want it lit. It's the same thing, but it's not as obvious to us in the salon industry. The customer wants a clean chair. The customer wants a draped cape. They want the station to look beautiful, like a beautiful vanity, as they're being prepared to look more beautiful that day. The smell of the salon is a huge deal. Gosh darn it. I walk into salons and think, wow, this does not smell good. And once again, I say, I do not want to receive a facial and smell someone's tuna sandwich in the back, or ravioli, chicken soup, tacos, Chinese food. It just doesn't go together. So we have to be very considerate of that.
Example I want to give you on that, just having been out in Vegas with my son, and he's not yet 21, so there was no gambling. About the most we could do was be tourists and walk from one casino to the next. So in the course of the couple of days that I was out there, we were in and out of many casinos. Well, the one night we walked into Mandalay Bay, and I wanted to see, even though it was closed, I wanted to see both the Roberts salons. And as we walked into Mandalay Bay, there's some atmosphere differences that are striking compared to all the other casinos. And I had to wonder, is that why it's my favorite? Is that why I love Mandalay Bay? Is it just because Robert's there, or is it really something about the casinos? And I think that one of the things that Craig pointed out was interesting. He said, Dad, somehow they've made it smell different in this hotel, in this casino, than any of the other casinos that we've been in.
It's very much a tropical smell.
It is very much a relaxing, almost a spa smell in its own right.
That's right.
And certainly it intensifies as you go downstairs by Robert's downstairs salon, because it's right next to the spa. And it's just wonderful the way they've put that fragrance in the air. People talk all the time about how they pump oxygen into the casinos. Why not pump great smelling oxygen into the casinos instead? Another thing that I noticed was the lighting was different in Mandalay Bay. And the spacing was different. Their choice of colors for the carpets and the walls and even the machines that they had, I thought it was so intriguing because it was much more friendly. It was much more inviting.
Warmer.
And warmer than all of the other casinos. We had commented earlier when we were in Caesars about how there's so much eye candy in Caesars, whether it be the blinking lights or the TV screens everywhere.
Yeah, you can't get comfortable because your eyes are just
You're never
darting.
comfortable. You're on sensory overload.
Right.
Constantly. It was totally the opposite in Mandalay Bay. I prefer it. Some people prefer Caesars, but I preferred the atmosphere that Mandalay Bay was creating to the others. And to me, it was by design.
That's
they
a great
designed
point.
it that way.
Great point. And it's neat and organized. Nothing's dated there. Their taste level, very high at Mandalay Bay. Their artwork, their signage, the extras, all of this can be applied as how does my salon look? And some people say Mandalay Bay, their budget was how many millions or billions of dollars? That's not what we're saying. You can create the same atmosphere in a 10 by 10 room if you make sure that you're paying attention to the detail and that all the extras are in place.
Mm-hmm. And the fourth cornerstone is sanitation.
My favorite.
It is your favorite. Why don't you start us off?
Well, I've been in salons that I guess I have a reputation that precedes me because when I come in or I'm invited in to be in a salon, people say, we've been cleaning for 2 weeks because we knew you were coming. And I always say to them, why would you clean for me? I'm not a paying guest. I'm not the one that's going to make a difference in your livelihood. Your customer is. Why aren't you cleaning for them?
Well, I've got to tell you that I've recently been into and been around some beautiful salons with
that have gone filthy.
Really, really good reputations in their respective marketplaces that really need some work. And I'm not talking about equipment being outdated or even the business being tired. I'm talking about businesses that are alive and thriving, but they're just not paying attention to sanitation. And I can tell you that it matters. And I can tell you that the guest sees it. And the staff sees it. And when staff sees, we've had moments of truth lately in our own business. When you have a teammate or a staff member that sees leadership not paying attention to sanitation, it says something about our leadership. It says something about our values. It says something about what we believe. And we believe it or we don't. And we believe that sanitation is absolutely a critical part. It's one of the 4 cornerstones to a business, to any business.
Well, what I like to refer to it as turnkey sanitation. What does a place look like when it's ready to open? Not one thing is out of place. Even when you're going to entertain at home, you're looking around to make sure everything's in place before your guests arrive, because you want to make a great impression. When does turnkey sanitation and those kind of standards diminish? When does it start to just be okay to be filthy? Whether it's things not being put away, people leaving things behind, not throwing their lunch away. I've gone into break rooms, I think, I would never eat a sandwich in this break room. It's awful back there. Looking at the way the bottles and the products, which are supposed to all be beauty-related products at the stations that are so caked and look so bad that I wouldn't want those used on me. I don't understand it. I don't know when it becomes okay to be sloppy, filthy, and cluttered.
So sanitation really starts from the street. It starts from the street of your business. What's your curb appeal? If you're in a standalone building, what kind of landscaping has been done? How does your signage look? Is the signage proper? Is it current? Is it fresh? Is it clean? In the Midwest, we have 4 seasons, and one of those seasons is winter. And winter brings about snow and dirt. There's no two ways about it. And so if from the curb we don't look good, that's not inviting the guest in. Another thing that takes a beating kind of during the winter months are windows. What do the windows of the business look like if you have them? Windows and skylights.
And sometimes I look at front doors. I always stand outside the business and look at it. And what does it really look like? Are there stickers all over it? Are there stickers that are faded? I like a very clean front door. Glass windows. If they're glass, I want them to be clean. And when you walk in, it just looks like a great entrance to the salon. To be honest with you, I don't want to see MasterCard, American Express, and all those stickers. I don't like it. I don't think it's attractive.
Well, and this isn't necessarily related to sanitation, but if we're looking at the business from the street, I think my mind always goes back to a famous quote from Charles Revson, the founder of Revlon, when he said he would give up all of the advertising that he spends in the world if he could but have the windows of the beauty salons around the world to advertise in, because salons don't use them anyway. And I think that so much of the time, I'm not talking about decals, but from the street, when you look through those windows, does your business say we're in the business of beauty? Does it say it in a way of if you were in a shopping mall and looking toward a department store from the approaching area, you know that department store would say beauty. Inside every department store door is skincare and cosmetics and fragrance, always. And when you look at that from the outside in, you see beauty. Mm-hmm. Do we see that in the beauty business? Do we see that in our salons?
And I know some owners are getting frustrated right now as they're listening to our message because they think, I know, but I'm only one person. My staff just won't participate in this. Well, it doesn't mean that they won't. It just means that you haven't convinced them that that's really a core value of your leadership.
And our role. In this case, our role is to help you realize that you can and not be convinced that you can't. We'd rather have you focus on what could be. And this battle with sanitation, not everybody in your business has an eye for sanitation. It may not be you. In our business, by and large, it's not me. There are some things that I'm very particular about. But on the grand scheme of things...
Oh, you're very particular on product facing.
Yeah.
I mean you'll go nuts over that, but you wouldn't see that the garbage wasn't emptied.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my view of sanitation is probably 10% of what is real.
Right.
And yours is 110%. So I trust you. One of the things about sanitation is find the person who has the best eye for sanitation in your business and trust them.
Yes, don't resent them because they're a clean fanatic. Sometimes you get a bad label for it. But yes, I mean, what do the carpets look like? What do the powder rooms look like? Cobwebs. What do the corners in your business look like? Is it cluttered? I can judge a restaurant just the way they keep their coat closet. If everything is in there orderly, nice, I think, wow, this kitchen must be orderly and nice also. If I walk into a coat closet that's a mess, I think, oh.
I'll give you an example. And again, not naming names, but I was in a salon recently that had quite a few things hung on the wall, whether they be pictures or signage or whatnot. And I got to be honest with you, every single thing that was hung on the wall was crooked. Everything. Everything that the eye met was crooked. Now, as a guest, someone who's not architectural, how is the salon going to cut a straight line if their pictures aren't straight? Mm-hmm. You'd have to wonder that.
Also, what does the place smell like? I mean, does a new car smell better than an old car?
You're not going to smell again, are you?
Well,
don't get me there.
I'm going to try not to, but when a salon smells good, I mean, use cleaning agents that make it smell as though you clean your business. That's really, really important. And I can tell you, even restaurants that bleach their kitchen down all night, they smell better than those that don't. So what do? You want people to know that you are a clean fanatic. I mean, this is the hair business. Hair is everywhere. I mean, you've got a lot of people working together in high traffic. Things can get very messy. But I've got salons that we go into that are Dutch clean. They've got such a commitment to sanitation, and it shows.
And we believe in the long run they win.
Absolutely do. Customers like it. There's nothing better than be surrounded by nice and tidy. And it also means great structure.
But like every other one of these 4 cornerstones, service, product, atmosphere, and sanitation, a quick acronym to help us remember that as owners is SPAS. SPAS, service, product, atmosphere, and sanitation. When you are walking through your business, to be able to do a SPAS check, but also it's leadership's responsibility to train to the acceptable standard on each one of these things. Again, you're not going to hire people that are just automatically sanitation freaks. Go get yourself a Diet Coke and walk your parking lot and look in people's cars that work for you. Look in their cars. They don't come to you with great sanitation standards. Maybe 1 or 2 do. Majority of people that work for you are going to need to be trained in sanitation. It's just no different. And I can tell you this personally from my standpoint. From the time I was 16 years old, I was in sales. And when I met Terry and she rode in my car for the first time, she said, if you're going to keep a car like this, I'm not going to date you. And I said, what do you mean? It's a salesperson's car. I have a Diet Coke. A can goes right around the seat and back on the floor until I clean it out.
And a hamburger wrapper and everything else.
Hostess cupcakes. But anyway, everything has its place in a car. But I had a salesperson's car with literature everywhere and samples everywhere and my briefcase and everything that a salesperson needs. But the bottom line was, it was a mess. And at the end of the day, it hurt the value of the vehicle that I drove. And I can tell you that since I've learned how to keep a car, people want the cars when we're done with them. Instead of them not having resale value, people want the cars. They line up for them to get the cars when you're done with them. It's the same way, I think, in a business. If you get to where you're keeping a business in the right sanitation, not only do people enjoy it more at the time, but that reputation gets around. Mm-hmm. You go there because it's just beautiful. See, that people don't say you go there because it's clean. In their eye, it's beautiful, it's warm, it's friendly, it's inviting, it's a place I want to be.
Remember every time I'd get in your car, I'd say, this car smells.
Stinks.
And that's because you always had food in it. Because as a salesperson, you didn't take time for lunch, you ate in your car. And then that food wrapper, whatever, would go behind your seat until you emptied it out. Same thing with a business. If the business
Now, don't get the wrong idea. My empty containers were never more than about 1 inch thick on the back floor. Now, it's not like some of those cars you see that are up to the windows with debris. It was not up to the
Still, I didn't like it. And it made me feel closed in. when something isn't clean, you feel closed in.
Sure. And so, even though this is the shortest of the 4 segments, as you said earlier, Terry, that you can't be good at one and not the other.
Right.
These are the 4 cornerstones because they're all equally important.
Equally.
And so if you have someone where their service is outstanding and their product is current and wonderful and their atmosphere is a fun place to be around that the guest wants to be a part of, and it's a pigsty, we still miss the mark. I mean, you take any one of these 4 cornerstones out and you've got a business that may do okay, but it won't be legendary. It won't be world famous, and it won't be memorable.
My thoughts on these 4 is if you really had to nail me down and say which the most important, I don't know if I really could pick, because that's why they're called the 4 cornerstones. Are equally important. Going in and evaluating each one and really studying and examining what is the service in my business? How is it that we serve? What's our reputation for service? What's our reputation for the product performance, the product selection? What is our reputation for the scent, the smell? Back on the smell.
You're hooked on that today.
What is our
And I showered this morning. I don't know.
What is our reputation for temperature, lighting, music, the absolute necessities of the atmosphere that we're creating in the salon? And finally is, what are our sanitation standards? Don't you want a reputation that rates you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 in all 4 of these areas? It's doable, but it has to be part of your core values and how you run your business. Thank you. I think we're good. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
All right. I hope you've had as much fun with this topic as we have today. Terry and I have had a dose of, we've had an owner's couple of hours here. In between, when we cut away, we have the pleasure of sitting here with longtime friend and partner in crime here in the business, Bud Carlson, who has brought us to several moments of truth during this recording.
We don't like him much.
Well, it goes in, you know. But the fact of the matter is that I'm convinced after the process of doing this CD today that as an owner, this isn't a topic you're ever going to be done with. Please don't think that this is a CD you listen to once, take action, and put it on the shelf, and I'm done now with spas. And I'm done with the 4 cornerstones. After all, I put them in place, which is probably I've always liked 4 cornerstones because just like a cornerstone is so important to be there in the business, but in a building, once you place a cornerstone, it's there forever. In a business, these 4 cornerstones, they're present forever.
They must be looked at forever.
But they've got to be looked at, and they've got to be worked, and they've got to be reviewed. And the second you take your eye off of one, you probably lost it.
It's like the plate game.
Yeah, it is. It's like plates spinning, and you go around, and each one needs a little bit of attention to keep it spinning. But if you let it go, now it's dropped on the floor and it's broken into a million pieces, and try and put it back together. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to put a little bit of spin on each one of those plates. Much easier to work a little bit in each one of these cornerstones every step of the way. I think back to a conversation recently about discipline. And the person that I was talking to said that discipline took consistency and it took prioritizing. What we prioritize and what we're consistent with are the disciplines that we aspire to. And I think that spas takes discipline and it takes prioritizing. The second you don't prioritize any one of these things, chances are in business, because of the pace of the business, the salon business has traffic. Where there's traffic, there is challenge. Again, we're not selling one airplane to one person a year and then we don't see them again until the next time they need an airplane. We're talking about people that are in our business every 5 to 13 weeks. Hopefully, if we do it right, forever. And so this process of service and product, atmosphere and sanitation is something that is ongoing. It's forever. There are times where you think, great, I've got it. And there's times where you think, oh my God, I'll never have it again. And just like Terry and I were talking, we want to rush to our office right now to do a couple things, to do a lot of things actually. But that's part of it. And that's part of what makes owners owners, in that no matter what the challenge is, we're in it for the long haul. someone that we study under, Andy Andrews, talks about one of his steps is that I will persist without exception. It's find a way where there is no way. Think about, in theory, that sanitation is ever going to be possible in a business that has hair everywhere, that has hairspray dust everywhere, that has foot traffic, huge, and that has color bowls, huge, in an ever-growing business. To think that we're ever going to tackle sanitation and have it be exactly what we want in its own right is a
we're kidding ourselves.
overwhelming task.
Yep.
But the reality of it is find a way where there is no way. Prioritize.
Okay, I've been quiet because I'm irritated. And I'm irritated because you're right. The task is never done. And as soon as you take your eye off the ball, it's never where you thought you left it.
Mm-hmm.
Go tackle these things. Make a lasting impression with your customer.
And again, find a way where there is no way. Make it part of what you're known for. Let people know that you're always going to be doing your SPAS check. You are responsible as an owner for service, product, atmosphere, and sanitation. And the other challenge I would give you is do what we've done today, unknowingly. Listen to this CD with one of your trusted, valued staff members, somebody that's been around you who can reflect what's honest and what's real, not what you hope is real.
That's right. We did it with someone who no longer works for us after we made the CD.
That's not true. Anyway, it's a really interesting exercise, because I would tell you that before Terry was involved in our company full time, if I would have listened to this CD, I would have said, we're doing great in all of them. And then Terry came and turned our world upside down, 15 years ago, whatever, and put in a new standard. And then we think we've always got it. Well, you know what? It's just ever changing, and it goes on and on and on, and it needs constant help. And so we hope that you enjoyed this exercise. We hope you enjoyed this topic. We'll see you next month. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.